we are going to talk about vulnerability, a very important subject in our path as human being. And I'm going to speak for 30 minutes, and then, as you know, there will be space for questions, sharing, and connecting, and being vulnerable. So maybe in the 30 minutes, I will convince you that it's worth to be vulnerable today. And we are going to start. And when this morning, when I was meditating about vulnerability, I asked myself, what is to be vulnerable? And the answer that came is to be yourself. Basically, just the good feeling of being yourself. When you are sad, you cry. When you are angry, sometimes you shout, hopefully not on other people, maybe on the forest, maybe hitting pillows, maybe going to sweat it out. But you're authentic, you are just being yourself. And being yourself, it's so freeing and so natural. When you want to hug, you hug, right? When you are getting offended and getting hurt, you come and connect and talk freely with people instead of holding and building a case and feeling bitter and creating a wall. So for me, to be vulnerable is to be your authentic self. And then I thought, what do we need in order to be vulnerable? And when I say vulnerable, what are you thinking about? What are the 5 things that you really want to do, but part of you is preventing you from doing or saying or being? Today I had an amazing talk with somebody, and she said to me, I want to work with people, but she's working with helping other teachers instead of finding her own teacher. And she's really gifted. In the age of 10, she received from her grandmother a spiritual book that is still with her. And I felt, wow. And I said, what is stopping you from showing yourself? Because there is a part of you that if you will not show and bring it to life, in 20 years, you will be so sad and even depressed, right? So when I say being vulnerable, what are the 5 things that if you want to do, and it means to be vulnerable, or even 1 or 2 things, and you are not doing, and why? We'll give. You want to share, Amir? Okay, go for it.
I thought you were asking, so
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure.
safety.
Safety. This is the reason, right? Why not to?
Mm,
Because it feels not safe.
mm.
You're right. Thank you. So we want to feel safe. When is the first time in your life you felt you're not safe? Because as Amir said, kids that are safe, even you as a kid where you're safe, you don't call it being vulnerable, right? Yesterday, Emma, I have a 9 years old Emma, she was crying in bed, crying a lot. And I didn't know why, right? My mind said, why, what happened? Maybe it's cool. And I said, oh, Emma, just cry. I'm here for you. You don't even need to understand why. Maybe it was a lot for her. This was a special day. Her grandmother landed from Israel. There is a lot of excitement, a lot of things. School is a lot. Just cry. For her, it's not being vulnerable, right? It's just giving space to what is. So if you think about your journey when you came to the world and just were like free child, right? Being yourself, when is the time that you needed safety, that you felt that you are not safe, that you cannot be yourself? And I think this is important to remember. You don't need to remember the exact time and reason, but around what age you felt that it's not safe to be yourself? Maybe always. Some people say always. I never had freedom, and I see other people, so vulnerable, so courageous. Now, being vulnerable, it doesn't mean to be extrovert. Some people, they look very open, social, right? Very big. They are going into a room, they take space, and they share a lot. It doesn't mean they're really vulnerable. For some people, sharing it's easier, but they're sharing things they are used to share. right? Like there is things that are they open the drawer and there are flyers thinking talking about different subject and even about traumas, but it's you can talk about a trauma in a vulnerable way, and you can talk about it more from in a very like mindy, informative way. So what is to be vulnerable for you, right? And why and what do we need in order to be vulnerable? So kids need safety, right? Safety for kids, it's very simple. They need a roof, they need food, they need love, right? They need to know if they will fall, somebody will hug them. Not a lot, right? Kids don't really, it's like basic things that we also need, by the way, until today. And I hope that you give it to yourself. So, one is safety. What else do we need in order to be vulnerable? You need courage to be vulnerable. And the thing with courage today, I want to talk about how to connect to your courage. It's so courageous to cry freely, right? For some people, it's natural, great for you. For me, it wasn't. It wasn't natural for me to dance at all freely. I had to drink something. Yeah. And to move my body freely, to wear certain things, to say what I feel, to say what I want. When you see someone, a man or a woman, when you're young, did you go and say, "Hey, I'm going, I want," and being, it's vulnerable, right? You can be rejected. And then what? Asking for more money at work, changing a job. It's not easy. Asking for help. It's not easy to ask for help. Saying, "I love you" first. But what is life? Why we are here, right? In my eye, in my point of view, we are here to try and explore and to grow and to learn more about ourselves, about life, about people, and to take risks. And for the mind, it's always a risk to be vulnerable because you can feel connection, that's what we want, or you really get hurt. And maybe you got hurt already in your life and it was too much for you because you are young. Maybe you're 5 or 4 or 10 or 12 or 20. The first time you really get hurt, it's always hard and it's always feel young. So maybe you are trying to protect yourself not to get hurt again. But then how your life will look like? In the end of your life, when you'll be like the last day of your life, when I'll come to you, even though the younger people here, it will not happen. But let's say somebody is coming to you and saying, "How was your life? How was your life? It was colorful, adventurous. How is the book of your life? It was gray and white. Did you take risks? Were you vulnerable? It was like a horror movie, like adventurous movie, like a romance. So how was it?" I hope that you will say it was full. I felt all the spectrum of feelings. Yes, the joy, the happiness, the passion, the connection, the love, but also the pain, the sadness, the anger, disappointment, and rejection. We need to feel that, you know? It's so good to feel that. If I will not, like in my past, feel the pain, the traumas, how can I teach even? How can I connect to people, right? It's real. It's really real. And when you're vulnerable, it's like magic, especially by the way in relationships. So many people are fighting and are disconnected because they're not vulnerable. I remember one time I was with my husband, and it was a tough argument, like about the kids usually. And it was like the energy in the car, and it was, it's building and building. And suddenly I started to cry. And he was like, "What? What happened?" He wanted the debate to continue, the debate, mind to mind. But I was suddenly like crying, and you realize what's happening, right? And being vulnerable, from my experience, can really shift everything. For example, so that different kind of vulnerability. There is vulnerability of the mind and of the heart. For the mind to be vulnerable is first to apologize. Raise your hand if it's hard for you sometimes to say, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry." Yeah. So this is to be vulnerable, basically. It's so important to apologize. It's so important to apologize. because we don't want to hurt other people. And sometimes we make mistakes, right? Especially if you do a lot and hold a lot, we make mistakes. And it's totally okay. We don't want to blame ourselves. We don't want to punish ourselves, but we want to apologize and move on and continue. You did the best you could, and maybe it wasn't the best, and it's totally okay. So basically, to be vulnerable is also to know you'll make a lot of mistakes, and it's okay. So we are not perfect. So if you care what other people think, it's also a barrier, right? It's a barrier of being vulnerable. Do you really care what other people think? We think that sometimes people don't dance because they think everybody will look at me. Nobody is looking at you. Everybody are concentrating on themselves. In general, people are so observed with themselves, and we have the idea that we are the center of the world. It's the ego. We are not. It's a relief. It's a relief. I'm not trying to hurt you, the opposite. No, it's okay. You can be yourself. So caring what other people think, it is an obstacle in being vulnerable. Many people, only when they're old, they understand it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anymore. Other things are more important. So it's good to realize it before. With my kids, it was very important for me. My son will not care what people think. And I tried to raise him in a really place of confident and dream world until a point that it was too much. He did things in public that I mean, I said, what's going on? So I said, okay, so we need to install now the opposite. That's something that everybody has. And this is the awareness. That you cannot just be yourself all the time. There are other people, you know. But it was beautiful that we decided when to install that and to say, without hurting him, his freedom, but to be aware of other people and to be aware that you are not alone. But of course, I was starting to care what people think in early age. Early age was so hard. So asking for help is to be vulnerable for the mind. For some people it's natural. For some people, saying I love you, it's being vulnerable. Wow, we have the gift to give so much love through words. It's a gift. We can give compliments. We can talk to strangers. Yesterday, I have my kids' bar mitzvah on Saturday. It's a lot. And I went to Safeway to buy 70 helium balloons, even though I'm against that. But balloons, blue and white. And there was a man there that I don't know how to say it in English. He cannot really speak clearly. He needs to write. How do you say it, Amir, in English? אילם קצת.
Uh, well, it's not a nice word, but mute.
Okay, it was wonderful, man, by the way, and so he invited me behind the counter, and we wrote. It was very active, and I said, "Oh wow, I don't know what to do. How do I carry 70 balloons? Like I will fly, like Mary Poppins, right? I will fly." So he said, "Where is the bar mitzvah?" And we googled that, and I saw it's 9 minutes away walking. And I said, "Wow, Saturday, you'll be here?" He said, "No, I'm not working at Saturday. Somebody else is working." And I said, "Wow, I hope I was clear with him." And then he will pass and what, and then he said, "You know what? I decided I'm going to bring the balloon myself. I'm going to come to work and I will carry the balloon for you." And I said, "Oh my gosh." And I hugged him and we, we had a moment. And he started to tell me the story, how it happened to him in COVID, by the way. So it was beautiful, and we connected so deeply. And then I offered him a job in the bar mitzvah. I don't know, I took it far, but basically, it was such a beautiful moment of connection. And he allowed himself to be vulnerable, and I allowed myself to be vulnerable, saying, I don't know how to figure it out. And together, we're more than two people just coming and buying balloons. And I loved that so much. It gave me such a good feeling that I took my time. I spent a lot of time there, even though he didn't have time. And we need to talk about also time in a different, because we always have time. We imagine we don't have time. So it took more time than I expected, but it was worth every moment of the connection. So asking for help I did show that I have no idea. Anyway, until now, I have no idea what will happen on Saturday. Many other departments, but I showed him to him, and he was vulnerable, like saying, "Wow, I feel so bad. People don't understand me, and people treat me differently," and told me his story, and he felt love. And I think this is why we want to be vulnerable in order to connect and to feel love and to feel cared for, even by strangers. That in a second, people are strangers, but other seconds, they are really close to us, right? We can give gifts by words, saying I love you to people around you every day. Why not? What is the big risk? So there is a risk, because the risk is, of course, rejection, you know, and it's painful. But this sadness of loss or rejection is a great feeling, is love. It's alive. 1 minute you feel sad, a year later you're in love. It's the same muscle. And if you don't allow yourself to feel the sadness, you will not really feel happiness as you can. Yeah. So we said that asking for help is being vulnerable for the mind, saying I love you. And what is the third thing you think is to be vulnerable for the mind? Yeah. So saying I'm sorry, we said it, saying I'm sorry, saying I love you, and asking for help. What is to be vulnerable for the heart? And this is something very, very subjective. I want you to think, because they are different. There is a scale of being vulnerable. What do you allow yourself to do that you call vulnerable, and what you really want to do, or you see other people do and you say, I will never do that? Somebody told me this week, I wanted to cry, but and to fall apart. And she said it in the same sentence, crying and falling apart. Why crying is falling apart? Crying is natural. Yeah. It's not the same at all. Falling apart. Crying is, if you cry, if you share, if you are vulnerable, you will not go to depression. You will not fall apart. You will be alive. Just a beautiful human being that is alive. And when you are vulnerable, you make a lot of mistakes, because when you are you, sometimes you are not seeing others. So to be vulnerable, you need to switch into caring to yourself first. It's so hard. How many people here are more complying others, putting others first? Raise your hand. Yeah. If you put others first, say you changed already. If you put other first, it will be hard for you to be vulnerable. First, you need to take care of yourself, to know that you are safe, Amir said. So how can I know that I'm safe? I'm taking care of my safety. And safety can be even to eat when you're hungry, to go to the bathroom if you need. If you don't take care of your basic needs, you are not safe. Because nobody, when we are a child, I hope that you've been taken care of. But here now, who is taking care of you? Nobody can really know every moment what you need. Only you know, right? If you don't take care of yourself, you don't feel safe. So first of all, in order to bring and to install safety, you take care of yourself. You're not too cold, not to be too hot, and to be, not to be hungry, not to be thirsty, right? And not to have pain in your body, and not to need to go to the restroom and hold because you have a meeting. Because so basically, this is first step. I'm taking care of myself, and then I'm going to connect to my courage. Many people come to other master classes. They come to master classes that they call Find Your Purpose. Find your purpose in life. It's one of the most successful topics. And if you want to find your purpose, you need to connect to your courage, right? To connect to yourself, to connect to your heart, to connect to your anger. It's connected. We'll talk about it. So basically, to find your courage will not help you to read books, to read, to understand, even to come to this master class and to listen. Yeah, 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 yeah. It will not help to find your courage, because the courage is in the body. The body and heart are capable for so many things. The sky is the limit. We can do almost everything, almost, because each of us receive different gifts. One is more athletic, the other is more sharp in the mind, one is more creative. This is the beauty, right? But the Buddha said if you invest in something for 3 years, 4 years, really dedicated for something, you'll make it. A person, a human being can do everything if you are dedicated, if you are motivated, if you are courageous. I believe that. And I believe in people. Really, I work with people for 25 years, more than 25 years. I really still really believe, and I love my work because when I work with someone, I see the potential. I see the sky. I know they can do it. And there is work, but the work is here. We have uh, people and teachers, curved path, and created tools for us to use in order to get there. Yeah. So it's like, when I meet somebody new, even though I believe in everybody, I'm looking for few ingredients. Few ingredients. So first ingredient is the curiosity, because you are here because you're curious, right? And you're going to other master classes and courses because you're curious, spiritually curious about life, about the world, about why we're suffering, why this person is happy, why I'm depressed, why the questions are so important. It's like there is a computer and there is the big computer and you are sending a question and the search engine is starting to work with that. So I think curiosity is really important element. And the second is to work on stubbornness. Like I was very stubborn, and when I was young, everybody said that, including my teachers in grade school and high school, and they're right. But it's hard sometimes in the spiritual work when we are stubborn, if we are fighting instead of receiving and accepting. And I learned through my journey with spirituality. I traveled the world for 10 years, met many teachers, many retreats, many things. Were great, part were or terrible and awful. But I worked on being open. Worked on being open. It's so hard for me. Some people here are flexible. I'm happy for you. But for stubborn people that listen to this masterclass, we need to work on being open minded and then decide what is for you and what is not. So, not everything is the right thing for you. Okay. So, but coming open and then throwing it on the way out, in the garbage bin, it's totally okay. So, being stubborn will be an obstacle. Working on being open, coming open, knowing that I don't know. And the courage is the third thing, the courage. And I don't know if you had things in your life you did that you think it's really courageous, small things. My son, I'm sorry, I'm giving a lot of examples from the kids. I think it's real. It's more real to give and not just to lecture. I hope it's interesting. But he was in love with somebody for 2 years. And I told him it's time, maybe it's time to check, you're in love. Maybe she will say, no, you'll move on. And he said, how do you do it? You go, there is a dance. You go to invite her, you dance, and then you talk to her. And he did that. He did and really, really well for him, but it's very good because he went, he tried, he learned, he did it in a beautiful way. He was so excited that they can do it. He shared with all his friends. Guys, ask the girls because there's few boys, everybody in love with somebody else in the class. Nobody got a yes. And I told them, guys, it's because they know you from first grade. It's the same class from first to seventh grade. They said to them, you are like our best friends. We're not in love with you. Oh my gosh, this is great. To say something like. But for the boys to be vulnerable and to come and say, "Hey, I'm interested," this is beautiful, beautiful. And I saw that it didn't hurt him in a way. And I was thinking, how it didn't hurt him so much. He was sad and disappointed, but it wasn't hurt in a way he will not do it again. My fear was I don't want him to have a trauma, right? I want him to be, of course, sadness is natural, but I don't know, somewhere about the discussion and saying, hey, you try. If not, you continue. You feel sadness a little bit, you cry, you continue. This is the way we want to work with ourselves. And this is to be courageous, but for it just being yourself. So the courage is in the body. It's like a diamond that you always had, but now it's covered with a lot of doubt and all kind of thoughts. Thoughts like I'm not good enough, or thoughts like it will not, the outcome, I will get hurt. It will not work. I'm not beautiful enough. I don't deserve comparing to others, you know, all kind of thoughts, and you analyze why not, and you think, wow, it's really intelligent and thoughts like why not, why it's not the right time, it's never the right time, why it's not the right time, why it's not the right place, you know. Don't change your job because it's hard to get a job. Don't, it's hard to move a country. It's hard to find a home. People say that. And then the courage, the diamond is covered with so much dust and so many beliefs that if you believe them, you are stuck and you're not taking risks, and then you're not vulnerable. And this is something I discovered early on, don't release your home. You will not find another home. It's hard to find. And I was doubting that. Like, is it hard? Maybe if I don't get this home, I'm not so supposed to live there. You know, maybe if I'm not, this is saying no to me, it's not my future husband. I was doubting that, like, because the society and people are driven a lot by fear, about not doing. And this was my path, basically, to doubt those voices of my mind and the people that install the voices in my mind, like my parents and teachers, and the people that are holding those thoughts. Is it true? Is it true to me? Do I want it to be true? Do I want to explore that? So this is the courage of trying small new things. We start small, that you call different, or it's not in my personality, or you need courage for that, or I can get hurt, or this is being vulnerable. And I want you to, if I can inspire you today to choose even one or two things, small things for this new year that you're going to do. And write me later. I like when people write me. And I have a 15 minutes also discovery talk that you can book from with me for free, and we can connect and you can tell me more. Sage, you can share the link if you want to because I'm not good with that, as you know. So basically, we can connect and make it more personal. But if you go out of this masterclass with decision of one or two things you are going to say or to do, it's a win for me. And you'll feel shaken, and it's real. The body hold the fear. So, and this is the thing I really want to talk about. In order to, if you want to connect to your courage, if you want to be courageous, to be vulnerable and to have really authentic connection with people, and the connection with people, it's not only the people that are obvious. Of course, you want good connection with your partner, or your future partner, or your friends, or it's like this person in the supermarket, you know. And this is to like basically the intimacy and the connection can be so many moments in your life, and it's so much fun. It gives so much fun and purpose for life, not just to go and buy something, and go, and we are rushing all the time, right? So um, I hope to encourage you to do that, to find two things you didn't do before, at work, at home, with yourself, in life, because it's sad a little bit, to not to be vulnerable. I think it can create sadness and also separation. Imagine that everybody are going through something, right? Everybody are going through something, right? But they don't show it many times. There is a mask, and we are walking in the world with masks like robots. You are going through something and you're buzzing from inside and you're feeling something, and the person next to you, or the driver of your Lyft or Uber, or somebody that you buy coffee from, or your colleague that sit next to you at work, or sometimes it's even a friend or somebody closer, or your partner, and you're separated. It's so painful. It's so cold. It's sad. So I really want you to try, you know, to stretch yourself. So as I said before, the problem is the fear, and the fear is in the body. You can really want to do it, but sometimes you can feel suddenly you are shaking, you can you have anxiety, you have pain in your chest, and you just can't do it. And with the negative thoughts rushing and the somatic, respond, you will not be able to do it. So don't be disappointed. It means you need somatic work. Somatic work, it means that you need here. Oh, the sage. Yeah, it's the next. You're reading my mind. That it's good to come to breath work. I'm doing it twice a week in San Francisco. But if you are not in San Francisco, everywhere in the world, you can find holotropic breath work, rebirthing, catharsis work. It's the family of catharsis. Catharsis, it means that you are going into the body, into the unconscious, the feelings, and you release the trauma. Trauma is not just, people think trauma is a, specific event. You know, it's not only a specific event, bad event that happened to you. The trauma can be the fear that you felt, and it can be something small. Suddenly you felt you're alone, you need to take care of yourself, something scared you, and the mind came. And the mind came with all those beliefs of I'm not good enough, I care what people think, and I cannot be myself, basically. This is the message. And then the mind took over. So it doesn't have to be a critical parent, can be traumatic. Everything can be traumatic for a child. We don't need that trauma. Okay. And then it's in your body. The body remembers everything, and the somatic work, it means you are going to the body and you're cleaning. And then when you want to be vulnerable and courageous, it's easier for you because you don't have resistance, physical resistance to do that. So the somatic work is critical. Anywhere you are in the world, there are things like that, great things. You're coming, I'm doing it twice a week. It's easy. You're coming, you're breathing a lot, you're going into your unconscious, and you release the feelings that are stuck in the body, you know. And this is it. And you go home after 75 minutes and you feel so clean. And then you make space. You make space that you can really, through this space, enter your courage, the diamond, and it's beautiful. It can never hurt you physically. It can never hurt you. The only thing that can happen that it will not work because your mind will block. But then, if you have a good guide, second time, third time, it will work because there is a urge to open up, right? People prefer, like, I'm doing a community service. It's like really, small donation for the, like, it's really small. But the private session are very expensive. I'm training people to do the work and they give private session, in $200, $300. People prefer to go to private session than to a group session, even though it costs so much. Why? Because they're afraid to be vulnerable next to others. And in a way, this is the decision that I made. And remember, the decision that I made, and I'm going to be truthful to myself. I'm going to take a risk in a way. For me, I felt it's really risky, and I was afraid to do it, but I took a decision. I'm going to go for it, and I don't care. Now, who is taking decisions like that, like unresponsible decisions like that? First of all, I think two kind of people. One, people are suffering. I was suffering. I was really in deep suffering, and I felt I have nothing to lose. I don't want to live my life like that. I wasn't happy, even though outside everything was perfect. I wasn't happy from inside, and I had nothing to lose. I'm going for it. I'm going to try everything all the way. So I don't care what people think. It's small comparing to suffering, right? It's small comparing. The best student I have is students that are sick with cancer. Suddenly they got cancer. You know why? Because they are open. They say, I will try everything in order to survive. Everything I can. I want to stay to see my kids getting married. I want to fall in love. My life, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. What, please. So then they're open to try everything all the way. They don't care what people think. Care what people think, I'm going to die. It's right. So it's a great, great wake up call for them. They're great and they're doing great. And they're coming and breathing like lions and lioness in the breath work because they have nothing to lose. So this is one. Or second are people that are really winners and they want to win life. you know, like, and this is the other kind of people that are saying, I'm going to go all the way because I'm going to get that happiness. It doesn't matter that they need to do things they never thought they will do, but I'm going to be the best person, the best partner, the best parent. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to win that. So you need one of them. Hopefully that I didn't have that. I had more the suffering, unfortunately, but a voice that is saying, my life is short. I'm going to go and I'm going to try. And if it's not for me, I will not come again, but I will try something else. And it means to be vulnerable around other people. Such a gift. Until today, I remember when I traveled and I tried many retreat and workshop, and then when the facilitator asked for somebody to volunteer to work with, I was like this because I took the decision, remember? And the moments I will never forget. I did things that I never thought I would do in front of other people, really. And it's beautiful. It's memories that I have, and I cherish them.